Italians claim that the best design and the most interesting interactions can be found on the streets of Rome. Right? But how many will claim that the future of interaction design can be found there too? That's what I like to talk about today. Hola, my name is Hector Ouilhet and I'm head of Human-Centered Innovation and Strategy at Google. And it's a pleasure to be here with you in Torino. I wish I didn't have to put here in quotes because I've been more eager than ever this past year to get back to Italy, to Torino, where I actually lived many summers ago, or to Rome, so that I can see one of my favorite things in person again, the traffic officers of Piazza Venezia. I probably don't need to tell any of you Italiani who these traffic officers are, but for those watching from other places in the world, I'm talking about the traffic conductors at the Piazza Venezia, who stand in a pedestal in the middle of Rome's busiest intersection, and they just do that. They conduct traffic like this, like they're standing in front of an orchestra. They have beautiful uniforms. They're spotless white gloves, although I have yellow here. They make gestures like this and like that. They smile, they wink, and they inject something special and unexpected into the day of anyone who passes through. Put in another way, these officers bring incredible human grace into a context that could be served by a regular traffic light or some other pieces of efficiently minded technology. These days, technology is called on to make everything faster, more frictionless, and in theory, easier. Efficiency, or efficienza as you call it, is almost always treated as the best solution. Things are designed to do and do and do without any gaps, without any moment to stumble into something surprising or delightful. All things are expected to act like a simple traffic light. Today, I want to make the case that in designing technology, we really need is the exact opposite. We need much less efficiency and much more grace, empathy, and humanity. Now, this is the key trade-off, and is one we're often encouraged not to make. Just think about it. In technology, we're expected to maximize efficiency all the time. To build efficient products, to manage projects efficiently, to work like technology we spend our days designing. Technology is very good at being efficient, but the things that make technology more efficient are also the things that make it less human. Often, we maximize efficiency not because it's efficient, but because it's easy. It's easier to live every day without considering what's our broader purpose. It's easier to follow routine without questioning the why behind it. How many of you here have asked yourself, why do you do what you do? There's often not enough time for people to step back or to slow down and embrace the human moment. The Piazza Venezia is the exception. It's hard to imagine how these traffic officers manage to survive. And yet, their special role is singular and impact is enormous. So, why have these traffic officers always resonated with me so much? Well, maybe it's because of their beautiful white gloves. No, most likely it's because I too feel like I spend most of my days at Google directing traffic. You know, guiding fast-moving products and projects to their intended destination and helping countless people and teams navigate our vast organization. And when I'm doing it, I'm wondering not how I can be more efficient, but how I can have more of an impact. In other words, how can I be more like traffic officers, more like human traffic light? It's especially the way I try to do that directing at Google, the how, that reminds me of the officers in Rome. I'm always pushing in small ways to sacrifice just a little efficiency for a little more humanity in the technologies among the technologists. But this past year, man, it was harder than ever. Working remotely made it much more difficult to maintain certain essential human qualities in our jobs. In the spring of 2020, we all seemed to vanish overnight from our workplace. Same with the traffic officers at the Piazza Venezia. Poof! Gone. As a result, those little moments of human connection went missing everywhere. Think about it. It didn't take all that long for finding new ways to order in from restaurants or to stream new movie releases or to shop for almost anything we could possibly want. We found new ways to catch up with our friends and to teach our kids, and we found new ways to meet with our colleagues and do almost every other aspect of our jobs from our home. Most of us managed to maintain our efficiency, but it came with a heavy cost. A human cost. Most of us have spent the last year and a half in survival mode. How do we get through this? And how quickly can we go back to the things they were? But as we begin to return to one another, there is once in a lifetime opportunity to figure out how we want to be the same and how do we want to be different in the future, especially when it comes to our work. When I read about that triumphant return of my favorite traffic officers in March, it really got me thinking. I was like, just look at the impact these traffic officers are having by just doing their jobs in a certain way. What lessons are there for us to learn from their examples? What about them can we borrow to infuse in our own work and lives? I believe there are 4 key things. The first one, grace, craft, elegance, and levity. Those are all qualities that make the process of getting those cars around the piazza slightly less efficient, but significantly more human. All those qualities we might strive to bring to our lives, to bring to our interactions, and to bring to our designs when we begin to return to one another this year. Let's start with the first one, grace. The way the traffic officers seek out the human moment. My favorite moments watching the officers in the Piazza Venezia are not the gestures that are related to the job. You go this way, you stop, wait, continue. No. What I love more are those moments that occur when the car passes by the officers. You know, the smile, the wink, the nod, the double take. These are the parts when we see one another as people and acknowledge our common existence. Su Piazza Venezia, le auto quasi ti sfiorano. This is how the Piazza's first female traffic officer, Cristina Corbucci, described her first day on the job. E ascolti di commenti di che macchina, fanno I complimenti, ti dicono addirittura grazie e sono soprattutto le donne. Sorry, I know that wasn't the most graceful Italian, but I gave it a try. Corbucci and her colleagues are not perfectly efficient. They're not a perfect efficient solution to the problem of traffic, but there's an immeasurable gain to inject some humanity into the middle of a busy piazza and the commute of thousands of Romans each day. When we encounter humanity in unlike places, like in the middle of a stressful traffic-filled trip across the city, it's unexpected, it's memorable, and it's a reminder of who we are and what we are doing all here. At Google, this could take the form of running from one side of the meeting of the campus to the other one. You bump into someone, and then you comment on their new haircut. It makes them smile. You're talking about the 80s, and you're talking about how 80s have the really good hairstyles, and your pace automatically slows down. You're both late to your meeting about the operational budget and other boring stuff, but you walk into the silent room laughing, are bringing a different energy and vibe. Suddenly the space has this glow, and people notice this. Suddenly, the tedious and boring topic has a warm glow around it. Just like the traffic officers, I tried to get the job done a little less efficient than a piece of technology, but with much more humanity. And that's that trade-off. It's a sacrifice that people seem always willing to make. The second thing I want to focus on is craft. When I lived in Milan, I had a barber who refused to use buzzers because he thought that only scissors could achieve the nuance of his vision. He knew the haircut would take longer and would be more expensive for the customer, but the result was far superior. This sort of sacrifice and commitment to excellence leaves me in awe. Maybe it wasn't the most efficient way to cut my hair, but I told everyone I bumped that I have the best haircut I ever got. Look at me now. Oh my god. Look what quarantine has done it to me. I did it myself, but I have fallen really low here. Back then, my barber made an explicit trade-off. He dropped efficiency to gain in craft and perfection. Rarely do we remember anything we truly love because of how fast it happened. It's the things that are often designed or executed with less efficiency that have the greater impact and are more memorable. We see this with food, with fashion, with art. It may be winding and frustrating, inefficient path that leads the chef to the perfect dish, or a director to the first film she meant to make. But that human journey is often what makes the human product relatable, what makes it more admirable, and what makes it more desirable. Humans notice the difference between the store-bought tortilla and the handcrafted tortilla. We notice the difference between the mechanical stoplight and the traffic officer who's serious about her craft. We notice the difference between the music streaming service that requires me to know the name of the song I want to hear and the Google Assistant that can find me the song I want even when I can't remember what it's called. Now, technology may be indifferent to those differences, but we humans live for them. On to number 3, elegance. This past year has obviously pushed us in the direction of efficiency rather than humanness. Regular in-person contact with our colleagues disappeared, and we had our butts in the same chair all day long. That's as efficient as it gets. No time is wasted. No time is lost by taking a shower or commuting to work or going out for coffee or going from one meeting to the next. Everything pops up, boop, boop, in the same screen, at the same desk, or in the same bed all day long. Before everything changed last year, most of us had daily periods of transition, like the kind I just described. And for me, no transition was important to signify my brain the difference between not work and work as getting dressed each morning. Changing from casual clothes into elegant suit this morning. That's my uniform. This is another thing I love about driving past the traffic officers in Piazza Venezia. Seeing that uniform of theirs, spotless, smart, a shock to the system, and a feeling that here is something different in my day. The uniform signifies duty and authority, but also dignity and elegance. It's like this person respects themselves and commands respect. I don't know, maybe it's different in Italy where everyone's so stylish, but without the daily transitions of getting dressed for work during the pandemic, most of my friends and colleagues failed to fight the sweatpants-fication of their work life. Raise your hand if you fell victim to this. I had a few rough months. So, how do we recover some human elegance when it comes to getting dressed. And how do we bring that elegance into our work? Even when everything still sounds structured and all most of really want to do is to wear sweatpants all day. I have tried to wear a suit most days in the past year. Sure, I did it because I wanted to look good, but also because it felt helpful to maintain my sense of self. It is not more efficient for me to take time to get dressed in a suit just for me to sit my ass in front of a desk every day. Video conferencing, in fact, is harder. It's more time consuming. But you know what? It makes me feel better. It makes me feel more human. And when I feel more human, I'm a better designer, a better colleague, and definitely a better boss. I hope. Elegance is a much deeper aspiration than efficiency. Don't get me wrong, it's not about being flashy. No. It's about curiosity and empathy. Empathy for oneself and for others. It's about providing a pleasingly ingenious, simple solution to a problem or to answer a question. Often, we forget this deeper aspiration and strive for efficiency without asking why. I have to do this fast. Why? So I don't waste time. Why? So I can spend time on other things that matter more to me. Why? Because I don't find that everyday things I have to do particularly meaningful. Why? Well, because I guess I'm doing them too fast to recognize the meaning in them. It's easy to go fast. It's easy to opt for efficiency. But when you slow down a little and do the harder and more human thing, you create an opportunity to find meaning in the details of your everyday activities. Dressing up is one of those everyday activities. It establishes the mood of work, the mindset of work, and at work, as in life, it matters not just what you get done, but how you get it done. That's been the case everywhere I live in the world. Remember, what makes us human is how we complete the job, how we paint outside the lines, the impressions that we leave, the humanity we bring to work. Okay, so now let's explore the fourth and final thing about my beloved traffic officers that we should emulate. Their levity. And by that, I mean the way they make time for lightness. The fact that they don't take themselves too seriously, their willingness to mock for tourists, to gesture charismatically, to embrace the impression they are indeed conducting music. None of those pauses for lightness are efficient, but all of them in the display of humanity improve the experience of passing through the Piazza Venezia. I protect my time carefully, and I make sure when you and I are sharing time in a meeting, in a video chat, or even in a talk, like this one, I'm getting the most out of my shared time. It's what I'm like, what I'm joking around. This is why I interrupt a discussion to point that there's a cat crawling your head. You know, some people might think I'm just making bullshit jokes all the time. There's a little bit of truth in that, but those things are useful and necessary to connect. This is strategic. An efficient meeting can transpire without a single human moment of conversation or small talk or serendipity. It can be soulless. But if you're sharing my time, I need to enjoy myself. I push our tech to be more human, and if you're acting too much like tech, I'll push you to be more human with me too. Obviously, there are plenty of situations when there's no time for joking around. And if you try to bring levity to a meeting or a conversation, it will backfire. What's essential to know, when to do it and when not to do it. It's the balance that's important. It's figure out when things need to be chop chop and when they can slow down and let some laughter in. The traffic officer at the Piazza Venezia only works because traffic officers aren't everywhere else in Rome, clowning around all over the city and bringing the traffic to a standstill. The Piazza Venezia can exist the way it does because there's a system of perfectly efficient streets around it. Well, perfectly efficient is a stretch, but you know what I mean. Just like I can exist the way I do because of the perfectly efficient technologists I work with. For me, the future of interaction design is about sacrificing efficiency and prioritizing humanity. About bringing those fuzzy human properties like grace, craft, elegance, and levity into the practice of design. And about balancing the efficient driven future we've been told about in movies and books with the future that we human beings would actually want to live in. It makes sense that so many technologists think that the best way to solve problems is with more tech. If all you have is a hammer, you heard that saying, if all you have is a hammer, all you see is nails. Pa, pa, pa. And while we might be all technologists, we shouldn't act like technology. We are humans. So let's embrace our humanity. I try to remember this all day, every day. And while I embrace efficiency to get the job done, I always make space for grace and craft and elegance and levity. Because these 4 things are the things that matter to me the most. I've been thinking about something that one of the traffic officers, his name is Pierluigi Marchione, says about his work conducting traffic. He said something like this: at a concert, you don't have a need to speak Italian or English or Spanish. Music is international, and so is movement. All people understand it. That is, people just know what to do when they come to the Piazza Venezia, even if they never encountered the traffic officers before, because that officer's humanity is the international language. There's such a big opportunity for us to speak this international language with each other and to push for humanity in our products and our workplace, in our teams and in our interaction with colleagues, and most especially in our designs, in our practice. The future of interaction design is about weaving that international language of humanity and incorporating it in both how we do our work and the work that is created. Even, or maybe so, if that makes them slightly less efficient. Grazie mille. Bye.
Hector, you made my day. I mean, this is really an incredible presentation. Now, are you there? Yes, there you are. Hey, fantastic talk, fantastic performance, fantastic message. I was wondering if you can explain a little bit how people model essentially grace, craft, levity, and the elegance, because that's something which we learn from others, which we learn in a context. How do you model this in the day-to-day life, and how do you learn it? Our section is now about learning.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good to see you, Jan-Christoph. It's been a while.
Yes, indeed.
Ciao, everybody. I'm here dialing from another side of the planet. It's a pleasure to be with you here. How do you model is a great question. It's, I think when we're all born, when we're kids, we have this incredible curiosity for life. And we're driven by the unknowns. And we are so excited. And even if we get hurt, even if we get damaged, we continue the day. And we just strive to be alive. Unfortunately, because Western or Eastern education, as we mature, we are really, society and humanity try to make you feel more like an adult. We have to grow up. And in this process of becoming responsible, we lose what we used to have. I think everybody has it, this incredible humility and curiosity for being alive. So what we model other adults that are very good at being adults, but they forgot to be that kid that they used to be. Because that thing is not rewarded. The incentive models, the way we get paid, the way we rise into jobs, the way we, hell, even the way that you selected people to be here in this stage. Those incentives that we have in our society and system drift us away from the model of being curious. And I think curiosity is at the heart of embracing those human properties. So I wish we will have a magic formula to take us back to when we were young, our own childhood, and see the world through those eyes. Because I think we should model ourselves through that child, through that own child that we have. And we don't have enough mechanics and times in the day to remind us of that.
Yes. As you talked about the way of really how we could humanize ourselves and we rethink the ways of efficiency, I felt very moved. I moved essentially from Germany, a very, very efficient country, in '91 to the United States. And this was like a liberating moment. But then after a few years, my father said, and again, I listened to my father, now you have to go to Asia. The '90s were still the hot time in Asia, where you could learn a lot from the little tigers there. But these different cross-cultural experiences help to provide a different insight into what efficiency and humanizing essentially means. Now, you have lived in many, many different countries. How do you actually bring these different insights of efficiency and humanization into your day-to-day work life? How do you manage that at Google?
Yeah, I think it starts with the same curiosity and humbleness that I'm still learning. I have an example that when I was living in Italy, I remember I went to this cafe, right? The first time I was in a cafe, and I was standing there, and I was not treated as a part of the group initially. But then 2 days later, I was considered regular, and then I was just part of the conversation, even though my broken Italian. I was there and I was seeing how the person serving the coffee puts like these spoons in this hot water. And I was like, why is that? Right? And then I asked, and then she said, well, because then the temperature of the spoon will be the same temperature as the coffee, so it creates a better experience. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. Because the exact same experience in the United States where I live would be, why are you spending water? Why are you spending water? And my point is, reality is variable, values are variable, and the same experience can mean something great or something wasteful. So the way I have managed to live and learn is to always entertain that everything I see is just a little bit, and the rest is the things that I just don't know. So in your journey, and I'm glad you listened to your father, when you moved from Germany to other countries, I feel like we're very quick to judge what we see based on what we know. But what gave me hope is what I see is just what I know. And that's so small with what I don't know. So through curiosity and getting this understanding that I don't know most of the things I'm seeing, allow me to adapt and learn from all the places I've lived.
Great. This morning in our session about mobility, Thomas Stovicek talked about transitions and how transitions have frictions. You talked earlier in your talk about this moment between going from one office to the next and meeting. And actually, this little process of graceful interaction changing the nature of the meeting. I had lunch today with two really outstanding automotive designers, and what we talked was essentially looking forward to making marmalade over the weekend. And these little things actually change our relationships between people before we start to talk to other things, which might be of more importance, but just this little element of humanizing this aspect. Hector, it's just a pleasure to see you. It was a great time to have you here many, many years ago in Italy, and we look forward to see you again and learn with you and model some of your behaviors in our public presentations. Hector, it was a great, great talk. Give him a hand, please.